Are you ready to unmute your power? Are you sick and tired of being told to shut up? Welcome to Something to Say with me, Jamie Shae, because silence is no longer an option. This is not just a podcast, it's a revolution. This is for the women who are done tolerating mediocrity, done biting their tongues, and done playing small. With bold truths and unfiltered insights, I'll help you rip off that proverbial muzzle, put your stake in the ground, and take back the power you were told to suppress. You were never meant to be silent. The world is waiting to hear your voice. It's time to speak up, and speaking up starts now. Hey, welcome back to Something to Say, the show where we speak truth, speak our minds, and say the things we're not supposed to say. I'm your host, Jamie Shae, and I am on a mission to disrupt the status quo, to shake things up and remind women how powerful they are. I called the show Something to Say because that phrase, something to say, to me means that I stand for something and I demand to be heard. All women, all humans actually deserve to be heard. No one should stand for being silenced. As my dear friend and mother figure Carl Ann used to say to me all the time, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And she's right. And maybe that's a country song too. I don't know. But if it's not, it should be. I think it is, though. Anyway, in today's episode, we're talking about something that's not talked about enough, the confidence gap between men and women, and why so many of us women linger in doubt, questioning ourselves and our abilities, while men are socialized to leap without apology or permission. So, why do women need permission to become who we already are? What holds us back? And how do we start owning every room we walk into? Well, my guest today is someone who absolutely knows how to own a room. This woman, the remarkable Cami Gray, is a seasoned interior designer, a mentor, and the founder of the Psychologie of Home Design School, of which I'm a former student. She's known not only for transforming houses into deeply personal sanctuaries, but for helping women to stop hiding and start showing up fully in life and in their environments. With a sharp eye for aesthetics and an even sharper tongue for truth-telling, Cami teaches that your outer world reflects your inner world and that your home should tell the story of your soul. And I couldn't agree more. Today, she's got something to say about beauty, bravery, and building a life that feels as good as it looks. Welcome, Cami. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jamie. I love what you're doing here. It's so
Thank you.
professional too. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm working on the perfectionist thing. I'm wanting
Yeah,
to be a little bit more like just
which is definitely part of this discussion.
yes, yes.
Perfectionism.
Yes. So, Cami, I see you as like larger than life, no fear, full of grit and beauty, and you're also funny as hell. Not to mention incredibly successful. You're really an amazing example for women. So, what makes you you? What is the secret to your success?
Well, first of all, thank you. That's a very nice
Mhm.
introduction. And I don't think I've always represented myself like that. So it's definitely been a work in progress. But I think a lot of my success really, I would attribute it to my parents, and not in the way that we think. Like, I don't think like I was raised so right and the rest is history. I think I had a very interesting, colorful, eclectic, sometimes hard childhood that actually was very misaligned with my nervous system, what
Mm.
I thought I wanted for my life, because I did want it to look more polished and perfect. And my parents were hippies. They made us go to, I know it sounds terrible, but they made us like travel all over the world, but not like first class travel. We were basically camping all the way through Europe, and not like pretty camping, like I call it ugly camping actually. Is what I call it, like tents, and it was me and my three siblings, our family dog, and we're in outskirts of Paris and Amsterdam, and it sounds so cool, but I
Yeah.
was 4 years old, and I was just post a life-threatening surgery that happened as a result of an undetected or undiagnosed birth defect. And we finally made our way down to Morocco, and we lived there for almost a year. And I think what all of it taught me was that I can simultaneously be really scared and flourish, like flourish at the same
Mm.
time. Like those two are not mutually exclusive. Like you can grow and you can start becoming and you can develop your ethics and your character and your personality and your education and all of the things at the same time. It feels uncomfortable. And so I just grew up with discomfort and I just felt it from like the first second I feel like I was born, but certainly that experience. And it didn't let up. Like we finally went back home to America. My dad got his upwardly mobile job back at this tech company in Beaverton, Oregon, where Nike is.
Mm.
And we didn't really settle into normal then either. We moved into the suburbs, but we were just always that sort of odd family. And my brother, my youngest brother, Sean, he's African American. He was adopted when I was 5. He was obviously with us in Europe. And we just always were just a little bit different. And it was the 70s. And also, parents in the 70s aren't like parents like I helicopter parented my children. I even did some of their homework for them. Like I was really like I just coddled them
Yeah.
completely. My parents, if I open the refrigerator, they're like, "That's not your refrigerator. Don't open that door. Don't stand there." It's just like everything you see here is ours. Like you're just like, and they didn't supervise us. And so I just think I grew up with this just weird desire to be perfect, desire to be like the family next door, but I was stuck with my family and my circumstances, and it developed so much humor and character. So by the time I was in my 20s, 30s, I had thick skin. I just like, it wasn't like I set out to be an adult for the first time in college, whatever, and I was like, oh God, this is a scary world. I thought the world was always scary, you know? So I think that's where the humor comes from. And I think it definitely comes from the like giving zero fucks about anything. And,
Yep.
I think that even like when I think of career and entrepreneurship as a woman, I just never felt like I had to measure up in a man's world. It just never dawned on me that my parents just never made it. There's 2 girls and 2 boys, and we were always equals. My parents were very equal to each other. So, and my dad, I think, really wanted me to be a son, and they even named my name was supposed to be Robert, and that didn't work out. And he just always was like, I don't know, he was an entrepreneur. He just treated me like I can do anything. And he would talk to me like that. You can do anything a man can do. You don't even need a man. You don't need a husband. Well, I got plenty of husbands, but didn't listen to everything he said. But yeah, I mean, that's a long way of saying I just think it was always meant to be. And I also think I was meant to then share that sort of resilience and that inspiration with other women who had a more traditional childhood and traditional expectations placed on them, which means that women are pleasers. We take care of everybody. We put ourselves last. Being worried and being in a state of constant anxiety is normal. And so all the things that follow that are going to be normal for us too, like imposter syndrome and fear and self-doubt. And men are just not raised that way. They don't stand in judgment for that. And, I've seen it with my brothers, I've seen it with my son, and because I have a son and a daughter, and it's just different for them. But
It
it
is.
doesn't have to be. And there's many things we can do. Maybe we'll get into it of things that you
Yeah.
can do to normalize fear and simultaneously push right through it and become the thing that you were meant to be.
Well, like, yeah, let's get right into that. Pushing past that fear. So for me, I was always very much pushing the envelope, right? Like conformity is not for me. I'm not routine. I'm not going to be like everybody else. I'm not going to do things just because everybody does that because it's always been done that way. I always
Right.
think there's a better way to do it or a more an innovative way or interesting way to do things. Why don't we open up to possibilities? I love change and I love how that pushes me to become better, more expansive. And even if you quote fail at it, you still learned something. You've still grown. So how did you tackle fear? Or did you not really feel a lot of fear? Just thrown into
No, I
situations?
do, and I would say that I have a conversation with fear every day, multiple times a day. And I think that it is just a choice to feel it, to
Yeah.
normalize it, to realize that you're really of 2 minds. And one is the observing mind and just observing what our ego does, which tries to keep us safe and small, which is amazing if you're standing next to a cliff. Thank you, ego. You just pulled me away from that cliff and put logic into my brain, and I walked away or walked backwards. But the whole rest of the time, our ego does not serve us well. So we have to overcompensate for all those messages we get that say, stay safe, stay small, please others, don't make waves, don't be yourself. Change is scary and it's full of anxiety and it could ruin everything. Everything could fall apart. And the thing I have learned about failure is I actually think it's just new information. So when a
Mm.
problem happens or a mistake is made, or just like you get fired from a job, it's just new information. It's just like, okay, well, that client's not going to be my client anymore. So I need to sort of, close this, wrap this job up in a professional way. I don't have to get mad. I don't have to, get angry or blame them. I can also not have to like be all victimized and like, oh, I screwed up. I did all this bad stuff. It just happens. There's things that not everybody is for us, and not everything works out the way we think it's going to, but it's just new information. And like you, I hear the word change and I'm instantly excited. I'm like, what now? I mean, when something happens, like when COVID hit, I was like, okay, everything's over that I did before. My interior design business is going to implode. And so now what am I going to do? I get to reinvent. And for a hot minute, I was that's when I created Psychology of Home on Instagram, which totally took off because I was just decided to be me. But I like it. I'm excited. And then I found out that no, COVID meant that everyone was at home hating their homes, and I was going to be working triple, the number
Oh,
of
wow.
clients. But you don't know, and I instantly go for what's the excitement that's going to happen here. And I truly believe that whatever it is meant
Mhm.
for me and is an opportunity and is exactly what I should be doing. So I have a lot of whatever you call that, God, faith, universe, all that. I've had that since I was a little girl. Like I remember knowing I'm not by myself. Someone's got me. I didn't know
Me
what
too.
that was, but I knew I was going to be okay.
Yeah, I had that too. Something you just said about how you were ready to shift with COVID. You're like, "Oh, okay, my business is gonna implode." You could have gone and down into this desperate space of like, "I gotta hold on to my business," and that fear-based kind of decision making. But you went the other way and you're like, "Okay, well, something new is gonna happen here. What am I open to?" And then that you gave birth to this amazing school that I attended and brought me into this interior design world, which I'm so excited about. There's what do you think about, or what do you have to say about being attached to outcomes and letting fear drive your decision?
Well, the thing about being attached to outcomes or letting fear pull you down is that you don't know what's on the other side. And we don't know what we don't know, and until
Mhm.
we know. And the thing is, I don't know better than what the universe has planned for me. I'm not I'm not smarter than what my path is. And I just don't know, but I sure do want to find out. I mean, that's the most exciting thing in the world to me, is to reach my potential and the thing that I'm supposed to be. And I'm not there yet, like this, that at all, not even by a long shot. I mean, there's just more excitement to be had. And so that's the thing. That's why I get out of my own way, because I'm like, I'm not doing anything that's going to place a barrier or an obstacle into what is on the other side, or what's, right in front of me, because I don't know. And I sure do know it's going to be awesome. And I'm excited about it. And whatever's happening right here is fine. There's nothing about this that's going to sink me, lower, or even stay neutral and just be okay with it and just kind of freeze. I
Yeah.
won't do that either. I do everything to be like, I'm open. So hit
Yes.
me, you know?
I love it. We're so aligned in that way. So we've talked about how women are like agreeable and brought up to be pleasing and adaptable. How do you see that show up in their homes? Like how
Oh my
they create
gosh.
their environments?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say this in a little longer way, but I was a wardrobe stylist, a personal stylist for men and women before I became an interior designer. It was the single best job and experience that I could have done prior to working on people's homes. Didn't know it at the time. But what I understood about women, working with women, is they would say things like, I'm heavier than I want to be. I mean, I just feel like my skin is just like, I just look old. I have like the worst hair. I never know what to do. I'm so clueless. I'm just everything, and this is like a phone call, this is before we did all this Zoom stuff. So I'm just listening to this person on the phone, and sometimes they literally describe themselves as what sounded like a monster. I've got a really weird, misshapen body. Nothing ever fits me right. I was like, oh my God, this is like, do I really want to take this job? And then I meet him and I'm like, well, you're just a perfectly lovely person. Like, what, who are you describing? Like, it's like so, not at all what I'm seeing in front of me. And the
Mm.
men would be, yeah, I'm in pretty good shape. I'm looking good for my age, and I've got a lot going on for me. And then I'd meet him, and I'm like, excuse me? Like, you're not a 34, by the way. That's about a 40. Maybe. So it was so overinflated. It was completely opposite. And they had
Um,
no hangups about themselves at all. And they didn't question anything I said. If I said you should wear this, they'd be like, whatever you say, Cami. And the women were like, I don't think I could do that. I don't think I can show my knees. No, my knees are really weird. I'm like, knees are weird. Like, have you looked at your ear lately? Like, it's all kind of, weird. But we're very grateful for knees and ears. So I learned that there was this difference going on, and I also learned that the way people dress and present themselves is how they feel about themselves. And the same thing happens in people's home. Exactly. I'll walk in to someone's house that is full of fear and just feels like they don't deserve, they can't be too loud, they're pleasing everyone because it shows up in their house. They basically haven't finished a single room. They
mm.
speak like, well, I kind of want my daughter to come in she's 14 and she's got a lot to say, like giving too much of a vote to their kids, which I'm like, kids get no vote. And I know that sounds harsh. If you're 18, I'll listen to you, but you should be going somewhere else like college or
You're
something.
right. Yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't be here
Uh,
anyway.
you shouldn't want to vote. That there's just no take chargeness in their life. There might be one area like the kitchen, like, well, this is my domain. This is where I rule. Because yeah, that's where you work for your family.
Mm,
And everyone just is like, no, I don't want that. Or can you make that, for me a little bit different or whatever it is. So, but yeah, it's just like so completely obvious that there is some issues with self-worth and self-doubt and self-loving, just like self-love, and more for the women than the men. The men's just like, well, nothing's comfortable. And these were all hand-me-downs and never really looks great, but I'm not embarrassed or anything for people to see it. And the wife's like, I'm embarrassed. I don't even want anyone over for the holidays. This place is terrible. Like, it's like my kids don't even want to have their friends here. So that
mhm.
the same language though that I heard with personal styling, and it just shows up in our homes. And I think the only difference is we're a little more aware of it when it comes to our personhood and not as aware that your home is a direct reflection of how you feel about yourself.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I was remembering during my second marriage, we built a home, and before we got married, we built a home together, then moved in after well, I think we moved in before we got anyway, I never decorated that place. I didn't do a single room. There was maybe a piece of art here, a piece of art there, and the furniture was all off of Craigslist, I think back then. Like, it
Yeah.
was not my home. And but uh it was very much in alignment with how I felt in that relationship, which is I lost myself. I didn't know who I was. So I
Right.
certainly couldn't decorate because I didn't
Right.
have any
You have
taste.
identity issues
I had
like,
no identity. Yeah. So I can see how that represents itself. Like, your state of your identity or who you are or your self-esteem shows up in so many ways.
oh,
It's weird.
yeah. And I mean, why that's important? I mean, for the obvious reasons of a lack of self-awareness. Like, years can go by in your life where you're just literally not, you're really kind of low-level depressed,
Yeah,
and you're not aligned with, who you truly are. You're not living out, your big potential, and you're kind of in a holding pattern, kind of waiting for something to change, like a catalyst. And maybe that
absolutely.
catalyst is someone asking for a divorce or, whatever that is, or a health situation. But we're usually, when we get stuck like that, we're just sort of waiting for some outside external factor to happen instead of, proactively like, what's not working here. Then a field called neuroaesthetics emerged probably about a decade ago. Everyone kind of knows about neuroscience now and neuroplasticity and how we can change our patterns and these negative loops and stuff through therapy and through different interventions. But neuroaesthetics is actually this awesome field that scientifically has proven that our well-being is completely dependent on our environment. So, where 10 before I had knew about neuroaesthetics, they'd be like, why do we care about having a pretty house? Like, why do we care about spending all this money? And I'd be like, because it's so awesome. It's gonna make you feel good. But I had nothing really to
Mhm.
back it up. And sometimes you work with sciencey people and they're like, tell me why this matters. And now we can actually tell them in very, very like concrete scientific terms why it matters. And it does matter. It's not just the self-awareness, but it's like it's affecting our longevity, it's affecting our health. And so this shit's important.
It is. It is.
And it's not shit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just like to swear.
So much. Takes everything not to swear on this show. Like if I were just me, every other word would be the F bomb. So
Yeah. I get asked a
what
lot to tone down my swearing like on Instagram, and I'm like, I just unfollow me. It's not gonna
yeah,
happen.
I love that. I love that. So what advice would you give a woman who is like standing on the edge of reinvention? She knows it's time to go, to change, but she's terrified she's gonna lose everything.
Yep. I had coffee yesterday with a former student of mine. She was in school 2 years ago, a little May of 2023, so a little over 2 years ago. And so she wanted to sit down and she wanted to kind of show me and tell me all the things that she'd been doing since school. And I could see tears welling up in her eyes as she told me. But I just let her finish. I just let her get it all out. She just needed to kind of dump it. And I think she wanted me to just kind of like pick through what she told me and tell me what was good and what she should just kind of not be doing and how to be successful. And I said, if that's what you're asking me, I don't think any of that is what you should be doing. I think what you absolutely know you want to be doing, you knew 2 years ago when you came to my school, you want to be an interior designer, but you're holding on to these little bits and pieces of your old life out of fear because it kind of, sort of, maybe a little bit worked for you and you were able to cobble together a life and you think you deserve a life that's just barely getting by, just
Mhm.
cobbled together, just enough to survive. But that's not living. And if you knew, which a lot of people haven't figured out what that big thing is, if you knew, you should be all in. And the thing is, you do know. And I said that, and she just like, you know, she knew. And she goes, so what you're saying is I need to go all in. And I'm like, all in. I mean, all in. And she's like, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Like, what if I lose my house? What if I'm like, there's a really great quote by Eckhart Tolle, and I'm going to butcher it because he's way too heady for me. But basically, it's the now has no problem. And I think what we do is we ruin the now. So his whole thing is be in the now. We're all like, "Ugh, I'm trying to be present and be in the now." But if you realize that what we're doing is like literally destroying the now in every minute of our lives, thinking about the regret from yesterday, worrying about the failure from tomorrow. And if we just stayed right here and just said, right now has no problem. Doesn't have a problem with the past and there's no problem in the future. This very second, no matter if this is like a health diagnosis or a bill that you got that was unexpected, it's not right this minute. And when that minute hits where you think that problem is going to impact you and cause your demise, it's likely, very likely, not going to do that.
Mm.
So we just destroy every moment of our lives in this fear and not going all in and not just, and again, what I told her was, it's okay to be fearful. Just don't let it stop you. Be Normalize fear and that feeling. And I like laugh at fear, which is just your ego. So anything that is like, I feel a little angry or I feel a little blamey or I feel, just in any way that's just negative. And to me,
Mhm.
everything that is not just love and faith is negative. And, so if I'm not being positive and full of gratitude, faith, and love, then I'm being negative. And I do not want to live my life in a negative way, not because I don't want to be a negative Nelly, but because I don't want it to impact my life. I don't want it to have any sway over what it is I'm doing and will be doing in the future. So I don't give it any power. I laugh at it. I say, ha ha, I see you, same old, you got nothing new to say, and I just go about my business. And I always say it's like I have a little dog in my lap. Um, but it's like what dogs do when you tell them to stop doing something or you want them to do something, they just like, hmm. And then they just go back to what they were doing. And that's how I think that you should look at every problem or anyone who comes to you and tries to like bring any kind of toxic energy to you, any sort of negativity. You're like, interesting. Okay, bye. And go
I
back
love
to
it.
living that big life that you were in the middle of living.
I love that. Unfortunately, we are out of time already. Kimmy, where can people find you? Where do you
They
want
can
them to
find
find you?
me on my website, Psychology of Home, and that's psychology with an IE because I'm not a real psychologist, just like the people at anthropology aren't really anthropologists, just cute dresses and pillows. Um, and yes, that's the best way. And we have an upcoming summit that live streams for free on the 20th, 29th of June. And after that, you can pay one of our tiers and you can stream it anytime you want. And there's all sorts of bells and whistles, and it's going to be awesome. I have 12 speakers. So would love for people to join
Amazing.
there. And then I have Cami Gray Interiors for my design business. So that's how you can
Awesome.
find me. And I'd love to hear from anybody who has anything to say about fearful life or how you've overcome fear. Like hit me up and tell me how that worked for you.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. And
Yeah, this is
listeners,
awesome.
I just want to say that just because, you've been conditioned to be silent and soft and fearful, the world doesn't need more women who fit in. It needs more women who come. So thank you, Cami, for being here with me today and for everyone who's listening. And I will see you next time.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.
You've been listening to Something to Say with me, Jamie Shae, because silence is no longer an option. Catch me live every first and third Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, on transformationtalkradio.com to learn how you too can rip off your proverbial muzzle. Silence was never your destiny. It's time to speak up. Subscribe to my channel to listen first when new episodes drop. Follow me on social media and visit guidedbyjamie.com to join the community that has something to say.